1944 today. Today in 1944. So that would be, this is 24, so it's 80 years ago. There are a fair number of people alive today who are alive on D-Day.
Very few.
Very few?
Yeah.
Well, it's 80 years ago. There are a lot of Americans over 80.
Well, I mean, if you were born on that.
Yeah, no, I mean alive. I didn't say an adult. Yeah. Okay.
We have a great Prager
No,
video on this, by the way.
we have a great Prager U video on D-Day.
Yeah.
What's it called?
D-Day.
D-Day. You'd think I'd have guessed that one. It's a very interesting thing to say that there are a relatively large number of Americans who are alive, who are living today, who are alive on D-Day. And again, I didn't say we're an adult, but they were alive. It gives you an idea of how much the past is alive, and yet people know virtually nothing about it. It's a very strange thing. I was going over this with Julie, with whom I do my podcast, Dennis and Julie, each week. So my grandfather was born in the 19th century. He well remembered the time when there were no cars, for example. So my grandfather was born at the end of the 19th century. His grandfather was born, presumably, what would that mean? What is it generally? So let's say 70 years before him. So in about 1800, 1810. So I knew someone well, my grandfather, who knew someone well who was born in 1800 or 1810. The past has an impact, and it's very real, but people don't know the past. Here's one of my proverbial questions. I'll ask my producer, what do you think if I went at any Ivy League college and in the middle of their campus, I asked students, do you know what D-Day is? What percentage do you think would?
I gotta think.
He's thinking how much?
60 or 70.
You think 60 or 70%?
D-Day is pretty.
Okay, I don't. I'm not saying I'm right, obviously. You may well be right. I hope you're right.
The details, but they just have you.
Well, what would they say? So they don't know the details. So what do you think they would say? Would they say that was when the Allies invaded Europe in order to liberate Nazi-occupied countries? You think they'd say that?
Not the
Okay, so they wouldn't say the second half. What would they say?
They'd say when the Allies invaded Europe.
The Allies invaded Europe? I don't agree with you.
Okay.
By the way, I don't agree with you. It's purely subjective.
I know.
I don't know. By the way, I would say I would like PragerU to have this as a regular feature. We used to do it with Will Witt, of having people visit and ask these questions. We have really talented young people at PragerU, and I think it would be a service to the country. I mean, Ami Horowitz does, in a certain sense, that.
Yeah, we still do that.
Well, okay, so here's a good. I'll happily come up with a series of questions.
Aldo does it.
I know Aldo's terrific,
Yeah.
but does he illuminate? I don't get to see all of them.
Yeah.
Does he illuminate the ignorance that pervades? Okay, so here would be a good question. What's D-Day?
Yeah.
And then we'll see what works. D-Day, let me tell you why D-Day is so relevant to me, my dear listener. Because I went to Normandy Beach many years ago and saw all the graves, all the grave sites and grave markers. And these were all on the average 20, 21-year-old boys. Were not given an adult life. They died fighting the evil of that day, one of the two great evils, and that was Nazism. The other was Japanese fascism. And I just saw these, all these graves, and I took a vow, and I have only taken that I could think of, I think only 2 vows in my life. Internal vows, not external. And the vow was that if they could die for America and for freedom, I could live for America and freedom. And I had already begun devoting my life to those two, but this was really a recommitment on a very profound level. So I raise this to say to people, as I do regularly, we who are called to fight the evil of our day, leftism, not liberalism, leftism, which along with Islamism, not Islam, but Islamism, we who are living today and fighting these two terrible forces, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Iranian regime, and then the left, the despicable, destructive, nihilistic, chaos-loving, children-loathing left. And we don't have to face Nazi machine guns like they did on D-Day. We just have to face, I guess, alienation from people on Facebook or Instagram. For the full episode of the Dennis Prager Show, go to pragertopia.com, sign up, and become a full member.